A huge come-from-behind win for the Laval Rocket in overtime. The guy who scored the winner, will we see him in a Montreal Canadiens uniform in the upcoming season? Two National Hockey League right-wingers who might interest the Montreal Canadiens. Who's the better fit? Is there any way they can pull it off for both? A trade to make a UFA come the other way. One member of the Montreal Canadiens has weighed in on who the Habs' best prospect is. And did a Montreal Canadiens coach talk too much? Or did he tell us what we already know? The Sick Podcast is coming up, Brunchin edition on this Saturday morning. I'm Marinaro, and I'm going to talk with Stu Cowan of the Montreal Gazette and HockeyInsideOut.com.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro. The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
And now a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Sports entertainment like no other. Brought to you by 8.6 Beer. Intense by nature.
And welcome, Marinaro. It's Brunchin edition, which usually takes place on a Sunday, but we're going to do it today on a Saturday at 11:30 a.m. We started a little bit late, but that's okay. And the reason being is that tomorrow morning, I'm going to be at a breakfast hanging out with some VIPs and a bunch of people, one of which is this guy, Stu Cowan, of the Montreal Gazette and HockeyInsideOut.com. What's going on with you?
Hey, Tony, good to see you again. Yeah, that breakfast tomorrow, the Montreal Sports Celebrity Breakfast, coming back after the missing last couple of years because of COVID. Great event for a great cause, the Cummings Center. So looking forward to it. Great that you're going to be there also.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it as well. And we're going to be hanging out with a bunch of people, including Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield.
Yeah, and former Expo Ken Singleton's going to be there also, which will be pretty cool.
That's going to be awesome. All right, so I look forward to seeing you there, Stu. Huge win for the Laval Rocket, huh?
It really was. This team under J.F. Houle, I spoke with J.F. Houle's coach when he played at Clarkson for a column I wrote a couple of weeks ago, and he said this team plays like J.F. Houle played. J.F. Houle was not the most talented player in the world, but he worked his butt off every shift. And he said from watching the Rocket play, they seem to have taken on the coach's personality. And it's been fun to watch. A lot of Quebecers on the team, a lot of guys playing in front of friends and family at Place Bell with some pride wearing that Rocket shirt, and they don't give up. And it's very similar to what the Canadiens were like after Marty St. Louis took over. It's just that don't give up attitude, and I think that's going to be a key moving forward for both the Canadiens and the Rocket when it comes to developing these young players.
Stu, it seems like we're having a little bit of a hard time hearing you based on some of the comments that are coming in, all right? So what we're going to do is we're probably going to take you off. We're going to try and fix it. We're going to bring you back in. All right. All right. Okay. So there you have it. We'll be back with Stu in just a couple of minutes here if all goes well. How does everyone like my Guy Lafleur chair in the back? Huh? Autographed by the Flower himself. Pretty cool, huh? All right. By the way, I want to let you know. I told you that we're going today because tomorrow we're going to be at the breakfast with Stu and a bunch of other members of the media and a bunch of other people. It's going to be a lot of fun. And once again, Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki will be in attendance. The week after that, we get a lot of comments from a lot of men who say, my wife kills me now with these Sunday brunchins because she wants me to help out or take a walk or go out or do stuff in the garden. And I can't because I'm watching. And thank you so much for watching. And I appreciate it. And look, we figure next week being Father's Day that, chances are you're going to want to do something. You're going to want to go out. So I'm going to let you know right now that we're going to be off next week. Okay. So no show on Saturday or Sunday next week. But of course, the Sick Podcast will continue throughout the week. We usually tape about 3 episodes during the week. And we usually go live with one on the weekend. And I'm going to tell you right now, we've listened to everyone and we know what you want, and we're going to give it to you. So you don't have to worry about that. You can follow us on Instagram, on Facebook and Twitter at The Sick Podcast. We are live right now on Facebook and on Twitter, and you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is absolutely free. And we are live right now on YouTube as well. I'm also going to let you know that there's a draft coming up, of course, as you know, on July 7th, Thursday, July 7th, and Friday, July 8th. And the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro is promising you the sickest draft party in Montreal. It's coming Thursday, July 7th. And for sure, we're going to be doing something with La Cage, one of our proud sponsors, and we appreciate it. Brunchin with Marinaro is brought to you by 8.6 Beer, intense by nature, the beer for those who follow their instinct and live their passions in order to make their mark. All right, okay, you heard what I was going to talk about. Let's see if we got Stu back. Let's see, do we got him back or not? Not yet. Looks like we're having a little bit of a technical difficulty there, which we'll fix. It's just about getting him. We were getting comments that you couldn't hear him all that well. I was hearing him, but apparently you weren't hearing him all that well. Let's hear now. Stu?
Yeah, can you hear me now, Tony? I hope everybody out there can hear me.
I can hear you. We'll see if the comments coming in, but I mean, I can hear you. I heard you before.
Okay.
To tell you the truth. All right, so I wasn't there yesterday, but my nephew came over this morning, and he said to me, Place Bell really jumping. Oh my God. The atmosphere is unbelievable. You can see it. I watched the game on television. You can see it watching it on TV. Obviously, it's something different being there. But Place Bell has been rocking, huh?
It's a wonderful place to watch a game. It really is. Pat Hickey's been covering the games. I've been doing the practices. People going out there wear a warm coat because it's chilly in there. They got the temperature turned down to keep the ice well. But there's not a bad seat. There's not a bad seat in the house. Anywhere you sit is great. Talk with some of the players after the practices. They're saying at times it seems louder than the Bell Center, just because the fans are closer to the ice and in the smaller building. But it's a wonderful place to watch a game. It's easy to get to. The Metro's right across the street. So this is good for the Rocket, not just now, but moving forward, because I think a lot of people who maybe haven't seen the Rocket play before, hadn't gone out there, have gone out now and realized, how easy it is to get to. I mean, don't drive your car out there for a night game. It's take the Metro is the best way to go. And it's a great arena to watch. It's a really fun place to watch a game, and the team is entertaining.
I love that arena, Stu. I really do.
It's really the guys talk about the facilities compared to other rinks in the AHL are top notch. The dressing room, the ice. It's just that the Canadians did a really nice job with the City of Laval building that. The City of Laval seems to have embraced the team, especially right now. Tailgate parties outside. There's some nice restaurants and bars that are part of the complex. There's a big shopping mall right across. It's a good place for the rink. It really is.
Yeah.
And as I said, again, for people who haven't gone out there already or thinking about going on, I strongly suggest take the Metro because it's a lot easier. You get out right across the street, walk across the street, and you're in the rink.
All right, okay. So my buddy Jean-Charles Lajoie from GAC on TVA Sports spoke with Montreal Canadiens assistant coach Alex Burrows yesterday on the final episode of the season, which will start up again on Monday, September 19th. And as you've probably heard by now, I'm going to be a collaborator on that show. Why not? I'm going to have a lot of free time on my hands. And so I'm going to be doing a hit on television between Monday and Thursday at night. His show airs between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. So I'm going to have one segment along with Jean-Charles. And so that starts up on Monday, September 19th. Why not? I got some free time, Stu.
Well, hey, Tony, congratulations. It's good, going to the other side, being able to do it in both languages. Good for you. And I'm sure your followers will follow you over there also, since, majority of Anglophones in Montreal can now at least understand some French if they're not fluently bilingual. So good for you. I'm proud of you. Yeah.
I don't want to get into it all that much, but I will say this, and I only did because, TVA Sports made it official. So, at that point I can confirm. But I will say this, I received a few comments saying, not so sure I understand. You said that you wanted to dedicate more time to your podcast, and that's why you left your the job that you had before. And that's right. Okay. I was doing 3 hours of radio before, and my TV hit's going to be 15 minutes. Okay. So, it leaves me with a lot of free time to even do other stuff. All right. And which I'm sure I will. But anyway, we'll get to that at a later point. But Alex Burrows was on the show yesterday, and he said that one of the three picks with the first pick overall, it's either going to be Shane Wright, Logan Cooley, or Juraj Slafkovsky. Now, he didn't tell us something that we didn't already know, right? I mean, they weren't going to draft Nemec, and they weren't going to draft Jiricek, and they're not going to draft Geeky. I mean, they're going to draft one of those three guys, all right? Most seem to think it's, I would say, Wright, Slafkovsky, and Cooley in order, all right? Having said that, you think it bothered the Canadians that he actually probably showed their cards by saying, you know what, we're going to draft one of these three players? I mean, it's something we already know. We already know they're going to draft one of those threes. But did he say too much?
I don't think so, Tony. You know what? The draft's in Montreal. We're talking about it now. There's suspense leading up to it. Who are they going to pick? You know, what are they going to do? They sold out day one for the draft, I think in like 5 minutes or something when the tickets went up online. And I think it's building up momentum and interest and everything in the draft. And as you said, he didn't say anything that we don't already know. It was one of those three guys they're going to pick. I don't think it was any earth-shattering news. I think he said what everybody knows, and I don't think the Canes would be upset because, I mean, if he had said we're going to pick one guy specifically, yeah, but I mean, he said what everybody knows, and people are, you know, how fast those tickets went for the draft. It just shows how excited people are about it. And from having covered the drafts before live, it's one of those events that is often a lot better on TV than actually being there because, you know, they call the kid's name, he comes up and he disappears. That's it. But Canadians fans are excited about what the team is going to do. And I think this adds to the excitement and the build-up leading up to the draft.
Yeah, I love the transparency. And once again, I mean, everyone in the world knows that it's going to be one of those three guys, right? I mean, so, I don't have a problem with it. I love the transparency.
It's not like he said, oh, we're leaning towards taking Shane Wright or something like that. The Canadians would have been upset if he had said something like that. But he said, and even, you know, Kent Hughes, who knows? I mean, maybe he still hasn't decided which guy he's going to take.
Yeah.
Maybe he already has, but we're not going to know until he walks up to the stage at the draft in front of a full house at the Bell Center and announces who the number one pick is.
Yeah, and if Kent Hughes wants to let us know who he's going to pick number one, it'll be him who's going to announce the news and not Alex Burrows. All right, the player who scored the game-winning goal yesterday for the Laval Rocket, RHP, Raphael Harvey-Pinard. Will he be a Hab next season?
There's a chance. I mean, he's 23 years old. I covered Rocket practice last week, and I was asking JF Houle after Lehkonen had scored the overtime goal for Colorado. And, you know, Canadians will need to find somebody who can play that type of role with the Canadians. And I mentioned Jesse Jolinen. And he said, yeah, Jolinen has some of the skills that Lehkonen. He says, but also Raphael Harvey-Pinard does too, that drive to the net that Lehkonen had, that work ethic that Lehkonen had. So, yeah, I think there's a good chance that he could be with the Canadians next year. 23 years old. He played 4 games with the team this season. Work ethics there, seems to have a good attitude, can fill a fourth line role. So I think he definitely has a chance going into training camp. But again, even as Marty St. Louis has said, it's hard to say, you know, Marty St. Louis asked, you know, how far away is this team from making the playoffs? And he said, it's hard to say because he doesn't know what the team's going to look like, right? We don't know what's going to happen. Is Jeff Petrie going to be back? Is Carey Price going to be back? Are they going to go out shopping for free agents? We don't really know what the team's going to look like once training camp starts. There's still a lot of questions that need to be answered, but I definitely think Raphael Harvey-Pinard has a chance of making the team next season. A
couple of right wingers are on the block, and they might interest the Montreal Canadiens. Let me clear my voice. Here we go. I haven't used it in a while.
I hope my volume's good for everybody out there now.
No, it's good now.
Okay.
Jesse Puljujarvi, who went 4th overall in the 2016 draft, obviously. You know, he hasn't been able to play to the potential that was seen in him. He's had seasons of 12 goals with the Edmonton Oilers, 15 goals, 14 goals, and after 4 seasons with the Oilers, 4.5 seasons, he's on the block. It wouldn't be the first time that his name is out there. He's 6'4". He's over 200 pounds. He's a right-handed shot. He's 24 years of age. Should he interest the Montreal Canadiens? Do you see him fitting in to Marty St. Louis' team?
I can see the Canadiens having some interest. I mean, the way Kent Hughes has gone about things and a lot of the trades he's made, he's taken players who were already selected in the second round of the draft, or players that he's already seen play at the pro level, whether it be in the NHL or the AHL or whatever. And here's another guy that, draft picks and that, you don't know how they're going to turn out. You don't know what's going to be. They've seen this guy play. They would know what his strengths and weaknesses are. They would know whether he's going to fit into the system that Marty St. Louis plays. So there's a possibility, I think. And again, a lot's going to depend on what happens with the other players leading up to the draft, the trade deadline, free agency, etc. So yeah, I think there'll be interest there because he's a guy who has NHL experience. He's not that old. Would probably work into their salary structure. So I think I could see that there'd be interest in there. But I think they'd have an interest in a lot of players at this point.
All right, another player whose name has been coming up is Kasperi Kapanen. He was drafted by the Pittsburgh Penguins, first round, 22nd overall, back in 2014. So he's been in the league since 15-16. Was traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs, had 4 or 5 seasons with the Leafs. The most goals he ever put up was 20 goals back in the 18-19 season. Last year in 40 games he had, or 2 years ago, he had 11 goals. This past season, he had 11 goals in 79 games. He's on the block as well. It looks like he might be going to arbitration, but Jeff Petrie's name is being thrown out there in Pittsburgh. Stu, we know that they're going to move him. If it's not if, it's when. But if Petrie goes to Pittsburgh, can the Canadiens be interested in Kasperi Kapanen?
Again, for the same reasons, I think so. He's a young guy, 25 years old. He's got NHL experience. I'm just looking at his stats here. He's had 20 goals in his second full season in the NHL with the Leafs. His production has dropped since then. But the Canadiens they're looking for players who can, as you mentioned, can play Marty St. Louis' system, right? And they're looking for character, and they're looking for all that stuff. We're talking about before, the Rocket guys who don't give up. I don't know Kapanen enough as far as his character like that. But the thing with Kent Hughes that makes him, I think, one of his biggest strengths that he has as a GM is the fact that he was an agent, and Chris Letang was one of his players. So he would know more about Kapanen as a on and off the ice than other GMs might be, because Hughes would talk with all his clients, and I'm sure, what's this guy like, what's that guy like, and I imagine he's still making some of those calls to players that he represented before, just getting a feel for what these guys are like. He's represented a lot of players for a lot of years over the NHL, and he has I think he has more of an inside source for what guys are really like because of the position he was in and how many players he worked with over the years, whereas opposed to another GM who might be calling other GMs or coaches or whatnot. He has a lot of people he can call and reach out to to find out what guys are like both on and off the ice, and whether they would fit in with Marty St. Louis' system.
And in Kasperi Kapanen's case, he can fly. And there's a few things that we were told that Marty St. Louis wanted to have in his hockey team: a team that skates fast, a team that plays fast, and a team that thinks fast.
And he's got size.
This guy can definitely skate fast.
Yeah, 6'1", 194, a guy who can add some size to what's not a huge team as it is right now.
Why don't we get to your questions? You can send them in. If you love the podcast, comment SICK, S-I-C-K. That's our way of being able to feel the love. Alexis Dubuc, what's the difference between Bergevin and Kent Hughes?
Well, the biggest difference, and I think I've mentioned this before in your podcast, Tony, I think that Bergevin let his emotions get the best of him too many times, and things became too personal with him when it came with negotiations with players who didn't, Philip Deneau, when Deneau turned down his original offer and Bergevin got upset and somehow it got leaked to the media what the offer was. I mentioned Max Pacioretty, PK, Radulov, Markov. You go back with all these guys, it seemed to get personal and ugly. With Pacioretty, it got ugly at the end. I don't think there was any need for it to be. I think Kent Hughes' people skills are better. I think he's got a better business mind than Bergevin did. I think Bergevin GM'd like he was as a player. You hack me or cross-check me, I'm going to cross-check you back even harder. I think Hughes his people skills are better, and I think he can separate the personal and the business side. We saw that. We mentioned Jeff Petrie earlier when Hughes was asked about Petrie, and he said he was honest with Petrie. We're going to try and trade you. We know you want to be out, but we're not going to trade you just to trade you. It's got to be a deal that works for both sides. So he's been open and honest with guys. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest difference between him and Marc Bergevin is I just think he's more of a calm. He's not going to let the emotions get the best of him, which I think Marc Bergevin did too often.
Marc Bergevin's strength wasn't pro player evaluation. I mean, we're going to have to give him that for sure. Okay. So now still, the jury is out on Kent Hughes and his ability to evaluate talent at the pro level, because of course he's less than 1 year into, his job as general manager of the Montreal Canadiens. I mean, when was he hired? Back in, was it December or January? January, I think.
Yeah,
right.
Gordon in November and him in January.
That's right. So there's not a lot of time there, but Marc Bergevin was a very good evaluator of pro talent. But I think Kent Hughes delegates more, and the lines of communication are a lot better within the organization, because it's not all one person trying to take care of everything, and then things can end up falling between the cracks type of thing, right?
I think Hughes is more willing to listen to people who don't agree with his point. I think he's more willing to listen. I think that's one of the reasons people say, oh, they're hiring their friends, Marty, St. Louis, and Gordon and their buddies. Yeah, but buddies are more likely to tell somebody something they don't want to hear, right? If you and I are talking about something, we can disagree on something. At the end of the day, Kent Hughes as the GM, he's going to make the decision. But I think he's more willing to listen to people who might have different opinions than he does, and respect those opinions, and then make his decision while taking into account what these other opinions have told him.
I get this from from my buddies all the time. They call me every day. You know what? You got the curly hair. You got the bluish green eyes. You got a great personality. You're so good looking. They're always telling me everything they think. And you know what? I end up agreeing with them, to tell you the truth. All right. Okay. More questions. Would you trade the first overall in a package for David Pasternak from the Boston Bruins? This coming in from Maverick Fisher. Because listen, Stu, this kind of shocked me, but it didn't. Bruce Cassidy relieved of his duties in Boston. I thought he was doing a great job, but I have a feeling that this was Cam Neely's decision.
It seems that way, because apparently he was told at his exit meeting that he was coming back. So whether it was Neely or whether it was the owner or a combination of both, it was a bit of a surprising decision. Would you think about trading the number one pick for him? Definitely. Guy scored 40 goals last season. He said there's guys like that don't grow on trees. Proven player, but with Boston, it seems to be it's interesting what's happening there, because they're Bergeron, their top players, Marchand's having off-season surgery. They're old. Their better players are getting older, and their window of opportunity is closing. But it's a strange situation when the coach leaves his exit meeting, being told he's coming back, and then he's not. Something's dysfunctional within the organization there.
Stu, this happens all the time in hockey, right? The Penguins had their window, and they won. The Blackhawks had their window. They won. The Capitals had their window. They won. The Kings had their window. They won. The Bruins had their window. They won. The Bruins went to 3 Stanley Cup finals. They won 1. They lost 2 of them. All right. At one point, you need to rebuild. Like the Penguins made a mistake of not trading Malkin and Letang a couple of years ago when their value was at its highest. And, you can say Crosby if you want, but listen, you can't blame them if they want Sidney Crosby to retire a Pittsburgh Penguin. But the Boston Bruins should. They definitely should. They won 1 cup. They lost in 2 finals. Patrice Bergeron is not getting any younger. If Pasternak wants out, they might not have a choice. And I get it. Pasternak's a good player, and I get it. Brad Marchand's a great player, and I get it. They got Charlie McAvoy, who's very good, and all that stuff too. But at one point, you have to know when it's time to just kind of like revamp and get a little younger. And I think the Bruins are at that point. They don't have to revamp.
Otherwise, Tony, you get to the point where you start paying guys big money for what they did in the past, as opposed to what they're going to do in the future, which is where the Canadians find themselves, right? With the Gallagher, which I love Brendan Gallagher. That contract is going to be weigh them down moving forward, unless Brendan can really bounce back. The Carey Price contract, the Shea Weber contract that they're still trying to get rid of. So it's as you say, when those guys reach that point, that's when you got to decide: are we moving him? Are we signing him to the big money? And it would have been better for the Canadians. And right now, it certainly looks better if they had traded Brendan Gallagher when his stock was high. But again, I'm not ready to give up on Brendan Gallagher yet, because he's going to do everything he possibly can to come back. But as you mentioned about the window, Tony, what the Tampa Bay Lightning are doing now is absolutely remarkable. If they can win 3 cups in a row in a salary cap world, to me, that's more impressive than the Canadians winning 5 cups in a row back when there was no salary cap. Now, this is remarkable what Julien Brisebois has been able to do with this team, and how this team, every time they have their backs against the wall, they just come back, and like you give them an inch and they're going to put themselves right back in that series. And their window Julian Brisebois realized that their window is they're keeping at it, right? I mean, at some point, Stamkos is going to get older. These guys are going to get older, and it'll be interesting to see how he handles that as far as rebuilding the Lightning in the future. But right now, what that team has done is just remarkable.
Sharing is caring. Share this podcast on Facebook right now. Just share it to as many groups and as many of your friends as possible so we can get as much interaction. It'll be kind of cool. I think it's worth it. More questions coming in. Dave Strug. With Hughes talking about selling high, wouldn't you agree Armia's value has never been higher after winning gold at the IIHF World Championships? What are the chances he's moved this offseason? I don't know. That's one way of looking at it, but the World Championships are not the National Hockey League season. It's not an 82-game World Hockey Championships, and I think Armia's value is low.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the World Championships are apples and oranges compared to the NHL. I think Armia's value is low, and I think Armia has reached a point in his career where he is who he is, right? He'll look great for a few games like he did at the World Championships, and then he'll disappear for a month, and you won't see him. And I can't imagine how frustrating he must be for a coach. And, just myself watching him at practice all the time, the size, the skill, the shot. When he decides he wants to play and he wants to keep the puck, you can't get the puck off him. We saw that during the playoffs last season. But then it disappears. And I think that's who he is. And I think that's who he's going to continue to be going forward. And that's why I think his value is still low.
All right. We talked about Jeff Petrie, and rumors have him going to Pittsburgh. And Kasperi Kapanen's name is a name that comes up should he be traded to the Penguins. But that would be a trade to make a UFA come the other way. And I think the Penguins may be looking for a defenseman because they probably think that Christopher Letang is leaving. And if the Canadians trade Jeff Petrie, they want to replace him by a veteran. If Petrie gets traded to Pittsburgh, does it mean that Christopher Letang will sign with the Montreal Canadiens as an unrestricted free agent?
That gives a chance. I mean, as I mentioned before, him and Hughes have a long connection together. It will depend how much money he's looking for. I think Kent Hughes there's obviously a connection, like I said, between him and Letang, but I think Hughes is smart enough that he doesn't want to get himself locked into, like we talked about, a contract like Gallagher for an older guy where you're paying him for what he did in the past and not what he's going to do in the future. Having said that, Letang had a good season this year also. So I think there's definitely a possibility. I mean, he may be one of those guys nearing the end of his career who wants to come back and play in Montreal in front of friends and family and play for the Canadiens, and maybe he'd be willing to take a bit of a hometown discount to do that. But I think, if there's any GM in Montreal who could bring him here, it would be Kent Hughes. And that was, as you said, Kent Hughes has already said if Jeff Petrie is traded, he's going to bring in another veteran defenseman to replace him.
I'd rather he bring in a veteran defenseman who doesn't make that much money and doesn't have the ability or isn't as good as Christopher Letang so that they can be terrible again next year. You know where I stand with this. I don't want them to be better. Now, speaking of veteran leadership, what did you think of the extension to Chris Weidman?
I like it. I mean, I like Chris Weidman. He's obviously when you interview him, he's a very smart, very intelligent guy. Good teammate. The players on the team love him. You look at how many times this season he came to the defense of his teammates, including, I remember a game I covered in New Jersey when they were taking runs at Suzuki, and Weidman was the first guy in there. And he's not a guy he's not a fighter. He's not a big guy. He's not a tough guy. And I remember his quote. He says, "We're not going to let Suzuki take SHIT from other guys, because if we let them do that, they're going to take advantage of them." So stuff like that in the room. And I wrote a column after he signed the contract. Near the end of the season, he was a healthy scratch. It was after they had brought up Harris and Barron. And he was in the media room talking with the other healthy scratches. And I had a 10-minute conversation with him, and he was all positive. Like, he wasn't sulking that he was a healthy scratch. He was talking about how much he loved being around the young guys. He told me how much he thought Nick Suzuki had the capabilities to be a future captain of this team, how much he enjoyed playing in the team, how much his wife loved Montreal, how much he liked being here. He's a perfect guy to have as your 6th, 7th defenseman. If you make him a healthy scratch, he's not going to be upset. Good veteran presence in the locker room.
Yeah.
Played a power play. If you have to send him down to Laval, he'd be a superstar if he went down and played in Laval. But
yeah,
it's a one-way contract. He got 2 years, so he's got some security. He played in the KHL the year before, as we know, and he is the outstanding defenseman in the KHL. But he had said every day he was in the KHL, his goal was to get back to the NHL. So I think it's a good signing for him. I think it's a good signing for the Canadiens. Marty Sanders talked about the character they want to develop and the bond in the locker room. He's a perfect guy for that. I think it was a really smart signing.
By the way, Stu, if you want to say certain words on here, you can. We're not censored. This is the beauty of podcasting.
Exactly.
Yeah, I got Agnello and Sammy behind the scenes, but they let me do my thing. And they just say, Tony, you know what? Just be yourself, do your thing, do what you want to do and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. And you could do the same, by the way.
Yeah.
Can we bring up Agnello and Sammy, who are behind the scenes right now, who are the brains of the operation? Why don't we bring them up? Bring them up. There we go. There they are. Look at that. Huh? Look at that.
You guys are the best. You guys are the best.
That's the brains behind the operation. I'm talking about that gentleman on the right, Sammy Cavallaro, 21-year-old, owner of Sick Media. I love you, Sammy. All right, Sammy. We'll talk later. There you have it. Sammy will make us say whatever he wants to. All right, back to the questions we go. By the way, I shared Sammy's story already, but for those who are unaware, Sammy was diagnosed with spinal muscular atrophy at 9 months old. His parents, Agnello and Rosa, were told that he was not going to make it to the age of 2. Today, Sammy's 21. He graduated from John Abbott in business administration and marketing. He owns his own social media company. He has over 6.5 million followers. And a couple of years ago, he was in Yahoo Finance's top 15 entrepreneurs in Canada under the age of 20. He came in at number 4, and he approached me with this project a couple of years ago. We amped it up several months in, and we've reached 9 million homes since October. 9 million. That's a lot of homes. Over 9 million homes and over 3 million views since October. That's a lot of places can't do that. Not only in a year, we're talking 5, 6, 7 years. Anyway, it's kind of cool.
Well, I've been fortunate enough to get to know Sammy and his family a little bit through you, Tony, and wonderful family. And what Sammy's done is really remarkable. Kudos to you, Sammy.
Yeah, I was introduced to them about 10 years ago from a friend of mine. We share a mutual friend with Agnello, Sammy's dad, and he said, I want you to meet this great family, and their son has spinal muscular atrophy, and they have a fundraiser gala every year called Sammy's Valentine's Gala, which of course hasn't taken place in the last couple of years because of COVID. But he said, I'd love for you to help them out and promote their event and be able to MC the event for them. And I did so, and we became very, very good friends over the years. And now he's my boss, and I work for him here on the Sick Podcast. But he's a great boss. He's awesome. Okay, back to the questions. James Fisher, should we be counting on Ryan Poehling for the future or packaging him in a trade package right now? Stu, I don't think this player has a long-term future with the Montreal Canadiens. I really don't.
He's going to determine that. He's, first-round draft pick, as we all know. He's still only 23. It's easy to forget that, too. And he spoke at the end of the season just how much he's been learning from Marty St. Louis and looking at the game differently and playing the game a little differently. And I think that's veterans and the younger guys have said that. So I'm not ready to give up on Ryan Poehling. It's been a really sort of a rocky road for him in pro hockey. Remember his first game he ever played when he had the hat trick, and then he scored in the shootout, and he got sent down to Laval the next season after having a concussion in a preseason game. He didn't handle that well. I think he's matured on and off the ice since then. He's 23 years old. I'm not ready to give up on him, but the pressure is definitely on him going into this season to prove that he deserves a spot on this team. I hope he can. I hope he can, but based on what we've seen thus far, there's a lot of inconsistency and there's a lot of Ryan Poehlings in the world. You know what I mean? Well, you know what it is, Tony, for a lot of these guys, I think of Mike McCarron and guys like that, for first-round picks, if you're a first-round pick, you've been a star player wherever you were before. Getting to the NHL and realizing that you might only be a fourth liner, it's an adjustment, right? You've been the number one line player your whole entire life. There's a lot of first-round picks who end up being fourth liners in the NHL. It's part of it, but I think mentally, and Ryan Poehling, you said he didn't handle it well when he got sent down to Laval. I'm sure he'd never been cut from a hockey team in his life. Yeah, and it was a learning experience for him. And again, 23 years old, and I think a big thing with these guys moving forward, Tony, and Jordan Harris spoke about this when he first came up. Marty St. Louis told Jordan Harris, "You're going to make mistakes. Don't worry about it. There's going to be 3 or 4 plays every game you're going to want to get back. Don't worry about it." And it's been a long time since young players on the Canadiens have been told that by a coach. You're going to make mistakes. Don't worry about it. Learn from it. We're going to move on. And I think that's going to take a lot of pressure off a lot of guys. And I think that was a real reason why the Canadiens had so much problems developing so many young players is they were playing scared. They were playing so afraid of making a mistake that was either going to get them benched, sitting in the press box, or sent back to Laval. And now, moving forward, things are different now with Marty St. Louis. So this is, this is the opportunity for Ryan Poehling to take advantage of that, play without being so afraid of making mistakes, and we're going to see what he can do.
Yeah, I'm not so sure he's still considered a prospect, but speaking of which, if he is a prospect, Francis Bouillon, who works in the Montreal Canadiens player development, he weighed in on the Canadiens prospects. Did you hear what he had to say?
I didn't hear that.
He said that Caden Gooley is the number one prospect in the Montreal Canadiens organization. He's such a fan that he wouldn't be surprised if Caden Gooley wins the Norris Trophy one day. Wow.
You know what? We watched him in preseason last season, and he almost made the team. He looked really good. He also was really impressive in the interviews. He's a mature, confident young man. I'm not going to say a kid. He's a young, but I've heard him, he captain of Team Canada. There's been comparisons about him with Shea Weber. He looked really good last season. I mean, he came very close to making the team last year. He's had a good season this year in junior. It's a lot of pressure to put on a young guy coming into the league, but he seems like a really mature, down-to-earth type of kid, and I don't think it's going to affect him. But yeah, he looks like the Canes have a really good defenseman moving forward with him. They have a lot of good young defensemen, and it's going to be fun to watch this team develop as the years move forward.
Harris, Barron, Gooley, Mailloux.
Romanov's still young.
Romanov's young. We'll see about Norlinder. We'll see.
Yeah.
There's
a lot, but that's when we were talking before about, getting Chris Letang or somebody. You can't just throw all these kids out there because they are going to make mistakes, and you don't want them losing confidence. And that's why, you want a Weidman around. That's why Kent Hughes has said he wants to get another veteran to replace Petrie. Plus guys who can play a lot of minutes. You don't want your young kids playing 23, 24 minutes a game and being -5 and losing confidence. So it's a balancing act where you got to let these kids make mistakes and let them progress. But I think when you have some veterans, you can rotate kids in and out. So it's going to be Pat Hickey wrote a column yesterday, interesting one, saying that maybe the Canadiens should go with 7 defensemen moving forward, like what JF Houle has done in Laval, so they can dress more of the young kids. So it's going to be, but Goulet, there's no doubt this kid has.
Hold on a second. Hold on. Keep talking. I got something for you. Go.
No doubt Goulet has what it takes to be a good defenseman in the NHL, both on and off the ice, and also as the leader. And Barron, we only got a little taste of him last season before he got hurt. But Joe Sakic said at the time they didn't want to trade. They didn't want to make Barron part of that trade for Lehkonen. But the Canadiens, that's a guy that they singled out and a guy that they really wanted, and they went and got him. And they also got a draft pick in that trade. So one of those trades that looks like can work out for both teams. Really happy to see Artturi Lehkonen doing as well as he is right now in Colorado, scoring an overtime goal for the second year in a row to send the team to the playoffs. But one of those trades, like I said, that looks like it can work out well for both teams.
The beauty of playing 7D is that you can double shift your best players. Double shift your best players. Peter and Coach St. Luc, no one had figured it out until Peter did. If you want to win games, you need to double shift your best players.
Well,
Peter, thinking of you.
The other thing, was, as I said, it was interesting column Pat wrote. The other thing with playing 11 forwards instead of 12, you can rotate, you can mix lines and mix and match and see who's working with who and who's working with what. So as I said, it was an interesting column by Pat, and we've seen JF Houle do it in Laval. Defensemen normally don't like it, right? They want that routine. But when you have so many young defensemen, if you're going to play so many young defensemen, it's a better way to maybe protect them a little bit and spot them where you need them here and there. Try them with different partners. I mean, this season coming up, Tony, as you said, you don't want them to win. You want them to be terrible. This season is part of a growing process for this team. I wrote a column the other day about, you look at the New York Rangers now, they can give Canadiens fans some hope. It was 4 years ago that they sent that letter to fans that they need to develop and they're starting over. And that's part of the process moving forward. As I wrote,
of course it is.
The Canadiens and their fans are going to have to be patient moving forward. It's going to take a while to fix this, but there's a lot of young, good prospects already in. We're going to get more at the draft this year. And I'm as someone who covers the team, I'm looking forward to watching this team after 2 or 3 years where, with Dominic Ducharme last at the beginning, it was horrible. Like the games were unwatchable. But that changed when Marty St. Louis took over. And I think it's going to change even more now moving forward because you're going to have more young, talented players coming into the lineup.
We were talking about whether or not Caden Gooley can win a Norris Trophy one day because Francis Bouillon says it's not out of the question. But you know what? I hope for him that he can. But as long as Cale Makar is going to be in the National Hockey League, I think it's going to be tough. Stu, I think he's got the ability to win it 4 or 5 years in a row. I don't know if he will. It's hard in the National Hockey League to win major awards like that 4 or 5 years in a row. But you know what? If there's someone who can do it, I think it's him. My God. My buddy Maxime Lapierre has weighed in, and Maxime Lapierre thinks that Cale Makar is the best player in the National Hockey League.
Tony, I grew up watching Bobby Orr, and he was my hero when I was a kid. And Cale Makar is the closest thing I think I've seen to Bobby Orr since then. There's been a lot of good defensemen, but a guy at both ends. I watched one of the shifts he had during the playoffs. I think it was the second round series. He rushed the puck up the ice from behind his own net, cut to the net, got checked into the boards behind the net, got up, chased it back, got back over the blue line, made a hit behind his own net, took the puck, and then started going up the other way again. I was like, oh my, like, when was the last time he's an amazing defenseman. As you say, probably a Norris Trophy winner for many years to come. It reminds you, talking about Bobby Orr, how many Norris Trophies he won in a row. Brad Park, another great defenseman, never won a Norris Trophy because he was behind Bobby Orr. So that's one of those situations. Yeah, Cale Makar is, to me, he's like one of the most exciting players to watch in the NHL. And I know I was watching one of the games and PK Subban was doing the intermission. And he's saying he doesn't watch a lot of hockey when he's not playing, but anytime Cale Makar is playing, he watches. And I'm the same. I like this guy is just so much fun to watch. As I said, he reminds me of when I was a kid watching Bobby Orr. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Let's get back to the questions. Try and get to as many of them as possible. Martin Gauthier. Hey, Tony, love your show. I think Slavkowski will be Montreal's pick, but if they select Wright, will this cause some friction between him and Suzuki when it comes to selecting a captain? No, because there's no way they would draft Shane Wright. There's no way they would name Shane Wright captain if they would draft them right away. I mean, maybe one day, but not right away. So there's
a chance they could draft Shane Wright. He goes back to junior next season too. That's a possibility.
Or even Europe. And I'm not so sure Shane Wright would want the captaincy right away in Montreal either. There would be
and I'm not even certain the Canadians are convinced that Suzuki's ready to be captain right now. I think they see him as their future captain. I just think they're not certain if right now is the time or if they need to wait a couple more years. But I think at some point in the future, Nick Suzuki's going to be captain of this team.
100% agree with you. Next. Bev, if the Canadians draft Shane Wright, do you think that they should trade their first round pick next year and Wright for their first round of Connor Bedard? It's just not going to happen because any team that's going to get the number one pick next year is not going to trade that pick because that pick is going to be a generational player. Next. This one's for you, Stu. Do you think the Habs would be interested in acquiring Max Domi again? Would he fit St. Louis style? If not Domi, how about Patrick Laine? 6, says Terry.
I'm not sure so much about Domi, but Laine. But again, it's salary cap, right? With until we find out what's happening with Carey Price, Kent Hughes' hands are sort of tied as far as it comes to getting a player like Laine who's going to make a lot of money. So in that case, like Max Domi, if they were looking at something like that, would salary cap wise would fit in better. But I'd sort of be surprised to see Max Domi back in Montreal.
Yeah. He blocked me on Twitter, by the way, and I shouldn't complain because I've blocked about 5,000 people. But, it's funny, Stu. When they acquired Max Domi in the trade for Alex Galchenyuk, I went on Twitter and I basically said, I like Max Domi. I do. But how does this fix the Canadians' problem of scoring goals, right? Alex Galchenyuk has scored 30 goals twice, and now you're trading him for a player who in the last 2 years has scored 9 goals. Now, the Canadians ended up winning that deal because Max Domi picked up 72 points, I believe, in his first season. He was awesome for the Canadians. And Max Domi eventually ended up bringing them Josh Anderson. So the Canadians won that deal and stuff like that. They did great. But ever since Max Domi played his first game with the Montreal Canadiens, I had been nothing but complimentary. And then one day I realized that I was blocked because he must have searched his name and went back and saw that I say, how does this address their goal scoring problem? They've traded a 2-time 30 goal scorer for a guy who scored 9 2 years in a row, and he blocked me for it. And that's okay, Max. I've done it to thousands and thousands of people, so you're allowed to do it to me. I met your dad, by the way, a couple of months ago at the Guy Lafleur's funeral. He's a great guy. All right. I see that Yvan Boisvert is watching on Facebook, and I want to say, bonjour, Yvan. Comment ça va? Yvan was a listener in my previous job, in my previous world. For a very, very long time. And he was very, very supportive. And He said some pretty awesome things since I decided to leave. And so I want to say good morning to Ivan. Salut, Ivan. Comment ça va, mon chum? All right. Okay. Next. Bram, do you think Logan Mailloux fits into the Habs plans going forward? I'm not sure. I really don't know.
I think they're gonna move him at some point, or let him. I don't know if they're gonna just let him go for nothing. But I think Jeff Molson wants to wash his hands of that whole scenario after he signed off on the team drafting him. So I think it would be more commendable if they hold on to him and they help him learn from his mistake and they show him the way and they make him a better person. They might do that. It's more commendable if they do that. They might do that. I apologize for my dog barking.
Don't worry about it.
But the thing is, you know what surprised me, Tony, when the Canadiens made that draft pick, apart from the fact they made the pick, is that they had no, I want to say damage control plan. They had no plan in place. It's like they were shocked at the backlash to it. Like, how did they not anticipate the backlash? And how are they not prepared for it? How are they not prepared? How would, I don't work in media relations with Canadians, but if I did, my advice to them would have been, we're drafting this kid. We understand he made a horrible mistake, but we understand he didn't want to be drafted. He wanted to prove to the league he could be a better person. That wasn't the person he was. We think we can help him more if we bring him within the Canadiens organization. We have people who can work with him on and off the ice. We're not focusing on him as a hockey player right now. We're focusing on making him a better person. And if over the next year we see that that's the case, we're going to bring him into our team and make him part of our team. But our number one priority after drafting him is to make him a better person and help him become a better person. Instead of Marc Bergevin saying, oh, he's a good hockey player. How the Canadiens did not anticipate what happened after that. And even the next day.
Well, it probably ended up costing a couple of people their jobs.
Well, the next day when I asked, the night of the draft, I had my hand up virtually to ask a question and I wasn't picked, which happened quite a lot with the previous administration of the Canadiens. But the next day when Trevor Timmins was there and it was Marc-Antoine Gaudin from the Athletic who asked him, he didn't believe he deserved to be drafted in the NHL. Why do the Canadiens think he did? And there was like a 30-second pause from Timmins. And then he said, can you repeat the question? And then how are they not prepared for that? How did they not realize that question was coming?
Yeah.
To me, as shocking as the decision to draft me, the fact that the Canadiens obviously didn't anticipate, I guess they didn't think there was going to be any backlash. I guess they didn't think people would really be that upset by it. And to me, that's shocking that they weren't ready to handle it better. I think now with the new administration they have in place, I think they are. So maybe they will take that approach and maybe they will keep Logan Mailloux and say that, we've worked with him and we're convinced he's going to be a better person. He was 17, I think, or 18 when he did something really stupid and horrible as a kid. I don't think he has to be condemned for the rest of his life for it. But it's going to be interesting to see. As I said, I think Molson would maybe want to wash his hands of it. But it's going to be another interesting thing to see moving forward is how the Canadiens are going to handle that.
Yeah, there's a comment for us to address what happened with the 2018 World Junior team and allegations of sexual assault and up to 8 members, implicated and all that stuff. We addressed it a couple of podcasts ago. It's not that I want to avoid it. We did an entire show on it with lawyer David Kellerman. So the beauty of podcasting is you can go to YouTube and you can go into our library and you can go back a couple of episodes and you can watch the entire episode with David Kellerman when we addressed it. How far is your dog from you right now?
He's my wife just went outside for a second. That's why he started barking. She's back in. So it's all right.
Okay. Why don't you go get the dog? Hey, can you do that?
I got 2 of them. I'll get the.
Go get them. Go get them. Go.
I'll get one anyway. I'll come back.
Go get one. This is going to be fun. This can go either way. This is the beauty of going live. You never know what's going to happen here. Let's just do it. People like dogs. I like dogs. I love dogs. Do you think Marty St. Louis will help bring free agents to Montreal? Can't hurt. Who wouldn't want to play for Marty St. Louis? Who wouldn't want to play for Marty St. Louis, right? Let's see. John Laurie, do you think the Habs should bring in a power play coach? I wouldn't be surprised if they bring in someone to help, but they will bring back all their assistants. All right, okay.
All right. This is not the one who was barking.
Okay.
This is Buster, who's 13, and
I
for
think he
the
likes
last year and a half, he's been blind and deaf. But he's still the sweetest dog in the world, as you can see right now.
Oh, he's been blind and deaf, really?
Yeah, for the last year and a half or so. But he's still a very happy dog. Lives a good life. And
my God.
The other one's a little terrier, is the one who was barking.
My God, does he like you or what?
Oh, yeah. He follows me everywhere I go.
What kind of dog is he again?
Cocker Spaniel.
Oh, you have a cocker too? Norma Flynn. Norma Flynn had a cocker, right? And he was in the spa with his cocker.
With his cocker, I remember
and
that.
So now you have a cocker.
I do, yeah. But he's a great. Dogs are the best. We got 2 of them, and this guy here, he's 13. As I say, we're enjoying every day with them. Blind and deaf, we don't know how many more are left, but he's a good little guy.
Now you have a pool. You don't have a spa, but you do have a pool.
Well, you know why the dog was barking, Tony? Because we're getting a new pool installed, and the guys just showed up. My old one had started to rust. So
they just showed up right now?
They're just putting it in right now.
I'm getting my spa installed on Tuesday.
Nice.
Yeah, so you're getting the pool. I'm getting the spa.
Yeah.
And if you ever want to, jump in the spa with your cocker, he's welcome to come over. I'm serious. Look at him. I love him. What's his name again?
Buster.
Yeah. Wow. My God. Look at that. That affection's unbelievable.
Tony, when I'm away, if I'm covering a Canadiens game or something, my wife now, as I said, he's blind and deaf. My wife has to put my T-shirts, like a T-shirt or something, somewhere around the house, so he'll sniff it out and find it, and then he'll sleep on it. Oh. Man's best friend. It's so true.
That's what they say. No, really, that's amazing. That's a beautiful thing, actually. It's pretty awesome. All right, okay, 1 or 2 more questions, and then we'll let you go so that they're installing your pool. So it's going to be installed today. It's a nice day today, right?
Yeah. It was supposed to come. They were supposed to do it. As I said, the old pool we had for about 20 years. It started to rust. It was time to change. And during COVID, it was impossible to get a pool on the waiting list. But now it's things have slowed down a bit. So they showed up. It's above ground. So I imagine maybe 4 or 5 hours, and it'll be ready. Hopefully, I'll be able to swim in it tomorrow.
That's awesome.
After the breakfast.
Why don't we take after the breakfast? Sure, for sure. Why don't we take 2 more questions? Do you think Hughes Gordon can take a hard line and impose a deadline on Carey Price to make a decision on his future? No. I think whatever time it's going to take, it's going to take.
It's all on the medical thing and whether Carey decides he wants to undergo another operation and it seems like Carey wants to play. I mean, he wants to play. I think he wants to play. So I think the odds are likely that he's going to be back next season.
I hope for him.
Yeah.
Next and final one of the day so that Stu can attend to the great people installing his pool. There's been a lot of talk of Montreal trying to move up to get another top 10 pick in this year's draft. What do you think the chances of that happening? I think they're very good. Listen, I don't know if the Canadiens are going to get the second pick overall as well as the first. I don't know if they're going to get a 7th pick. I don't know if they're going to get a 6th. I don't know if they're going to get a 10th. I don't know if they're going to make a move, but I'm convinced they're going to do something special at the draft. And that special is not just going to be having the number 1 pick and using it. Something else is going to happen. So they're not only going to get the number 1 pick, they're either going to get another top 10 pick or they're either going to make some kind of big trade. The Canadiens are going to make a splash at the draft. It's going to be held in Montreal, July 7th and July 8th. This is their Stanley Cup. And once again, the Sick Podcast is going to have an awesome draft party. Stay tuned for details, which is going to take place on Thursday, July 7th. And it's going to be the sickest draft party in Montreal. Stu, I would imagine it's a stupid question. You're going to be there at the Bell Center? I
certainly will be. Myself and Pat Hickey will be there covering for the Gazette.
I have a feeling that I won't be too far away. Stick with me, Stu. Stick with me. All right. Hey, thanks for doing this, man. Enjoy your pool. Have a good one.
All right, Tony. Have a good weekend, everybody.
All right, there you have it. He's Stu Cowan. I'm Marinaro. Follow us on all social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Sick Podcast. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. Let me bring Sammy back in one more time. Sammy, the producer and the brains behind the operation. Sammy, tell everyone to subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Sick Podcast, right now.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel.
All right.
The Sickest Podcast.
Sammy.
Yeah.
This podcast is sick. Sick, 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 sick. Everyone will be screaming it in the next 6 months. Trust me. I'm Marinaro. Have a great weekend.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow The Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by 8.6, Intense by Nature.